You know, people always say, family is everything. But sometimes, family is the very thing that breaks you. I never planned for my life to turn out the way it did. In fact, I had dreams, big ones. I wanted to move to New York, work in publishing, maybe even write a novel of my own one day. I had the grades, the scholarships, the passion. But life had other plans. It started slowly. At first, it was little things: my mom asking if I could stop by after classes to help her with groceries, or my dad calling me to fix something around the house. No big deal. They were getting older, after all. But when my dad had a minor stroke, during my final year of college, everything changed. My sister, Candace, was married with 2 kids and living estates away. And though she always had an excuse: a recital, a PTA meeting, a sick child, her absence became a pattern. So it was me, the free one, who stepped in. I put my future on hold for what I thought would be a few months. It turned into a decade. 10 long years. 10 years of spoon-feeding my father after his second stroke. 10 years of changing adult diapers, lifting him from the bed to the wheelchair, giving up sleep and social life. 10 years of reminding my mother to take her insulin, driving them to endless doctor appointments, paying for medication when their insurance wouldn't cover it. I watched my friends get promotions, travel the world, fall in love. Meanwhile, I couldn't even leave the house for more than a few hours without worrying something would go wrong. My youth slipped through my fingers like sand, and all through it, I kept telling myself, this is what good daughters do. This is love. This is duty. What I didn't realize was how completely invisible I had become to everyone, especially to my parents. My sister would show up twice a year, with gifts and grandkids in tow. She always made a dramatic entrance. "Oh my God, look how thin Dad looks. You need to feed him more, Naomi." And then she'd flounce out after a weekend of Instagram-worthy moments and be hailed the angel daughter for showing up at all. It was like I didn't exist. But I shrugged it off, because I believed that one day, maybe not now, maybe not soon, but one day, they'd see it. All the sacrifices, all the love, that it would count for something. I didn't want money or praise. I just wanted to be seen. One night, I remember sitting in the kitchen after everyone had gone to bed. My back ached from lifting Dad earlier that day, and my hands smelled like ointment and old wounds. I sat there with a cup of cold tea, staring at the flickering light above the stove, and I thought, will anyone remember what I gave up for them? That night stayed with me, because in some ways, it was the last time I still had hope. Fast forward to a few years later. Dad passed away in his sleep after a long battle with congestive heart failure. It was peaceful. I was holding his hand when he took his last breath, and even though I knew it was coming, I cried like a child. It wasn't just grief, it was exhaustion, heartbreak, and maybe a sliver of relief. Mom followed 2 years later. Alzheimer's had eaten away at the strong, witty woman I once knew. Near the end, she didn't even remember my name. But I still bathed her, fed her, whispered stories from our childhood just in case something inside her still listened. And then, suddenly, it was over. The house was quiet. No machines humming. No medicine alarms. Number 3 a.m. wake-ups. Just me, standing in the middle of the living room, surrounded by silence and ghost. Then came the funeral. And with it, the relatives, the casseroles, and of course Candace. She arrived in a designer dress and heels so high she wobbled through the cemetery like a newborn deer. Her speech at the service was full of tears and trembling lips. Mom and Dad were everything to me, she said, voice cracking. They were my compass, my light. I wanted to scream. They were her everything. Where was she when Dad fell and split his head open on the tile? Where was she when I had to choose between paying the electric bill or buying Mom's medication? Where was she when I called, sobbing, because I didn't know how much longer I could do it? But I stayed silent, because I knew this wasn't the time. This wasn't the place. That time came 2 weeks later. Candace and I were called to the attorney's office for the reading of the will. I didn't expect much. Maybe they'd left us both something. I figured I'd get the house, or at least some part of it. After all, I had lived there. I had kept it running. But the moment Mr. Henderson, our parents' longtime attorney, opened the folder, my world cracked wide open. "I'll get straight to the point," he said. "Your parents left the entirety of their estate, including the house, savings accounts, retirement funds, and all personal property to Candace Lynn Dawson." I blinked. Surely, he misread something. "What?" I whispered. "There's a letter addressed to you, Naomi," he added, sliding an envelope across the table. My hands trembled as I opened it. The words were scrawled in my mother's shaky handwriting. Naomi, we love you dearly. And we are grateful for everything you've done for us. But Candace has children. She has a family. She needs the support more. You're strong, you'll be fine. Love. Mom and Dottie felt like someone had punched me in the chest. I read it again and again. But the words didn't change. They didn't leave me a single thing. Not even a piece of jewelry. Not even the ugly old armchair I used to sit in while knitting next to Dad's bed. Nothing. Just a note telling me I'd be fine. Candace looked at me, eyes full of fox sympathy. Naomi. I didn't know. I had no idea they were going to do this. Her voice was soft, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes. Satisfaction. Victory. I stood up without a word, clutching the letter like a blade pressed against my heart. In that moment, I realized something. I had been a ghost in my own family. A nurse, a servant, a placeholder, but never a daughter. The days that followed were a blur. People kept calling, offering condolences, asking how I was doing. I lied to every one of them. I'm okay, I'd say. Just tired. Tired didn't even begin to cover it. The truth was, I felt hollow. I wandered through the house like a stranger, knowing that soon, it wouldn't even be mine. Candace had already started making plans, putting it on the market, talking about freshening it up for potential buyers. The home I gave up 10 years of my life for was being turned into a real estate project. One night, I packed a small suitcase. I didn't know where I was going, only that I couldn't stay. Not in that house. Not in that town. Not near the memories that now felt like poison. As I drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror. The porch light flickered just like it used to. And for a moment, I remembered Dad's hand squeezing mine. I remembered Mom's laugh. I remembered who they used to be before sickness, before selfishness, before betrayal. But I couldn't hold on to those memories anymore. Not without bleeding. So I let them go. Or at least, I tried. When I left that house, I wasn't just walking away from bricks and drywall. I was leaving behind the life I thought I was supposed to live. For 10 years, I defined myself as the caretaker. Without that, I didn't know who I was anymore. I rented a tiny studio in a town 40 miles away. It was old, cramped, and smelled faintly of mildew. The wallpaper peeled at the corners, and the radiator rattled like it had secrets of its own. But for the first time in years, I had silence. Real silence. Not the kind that echoes between hospital machines or oxygen tanks. The kind that lets you breathe. Still, the grief lingered like a fog I couldn't escape. I woke up every morning expecting to hear Dad calling my name or Mom shuffling down the hallway. My hands moved automatically, checking medication schedules, prepping meals, arranging pillows until I'd catch myself and remember, they're gone. They left you. And they left everything to her. I wanted to hate them. But more than anything, I wanted to understand. Why was I the one who had to be strong? Why did being dependable mean I was disposable? The days blurred. I spent hours lying on my lumpy mattress staring at the ceiling. Other days, I walked aimlessly through town, watching strangers laugh and live like life wasn't some cruel joke. Occasionally, I passed bookstores and paused at the windows, remembering the dreams I had buried beneath layers of adult diapers and medical bills. Then, one afternoon, I got a call from someone I hadn't heard from in years. Aunt Lorna. Her voice cracked with age but carried the same fire I remembered from childhood. She had always been the blunt one, the one who said things others were too polite to admit. I heard what your parents did, she said, and I'm furious. I wanted to call sooner, but I didn't know if you'd want to talk. I didn't speak. My throat was tight. They were wrong, Naomi. They were so wrong. Tears filled my eyes. Just hearing someone acknowledge it finally was like someone pouring warm water on ice. She asked me to visit. Said she had something she wanted to show me. I drove to her place 2 days later, unsure of what to expect. Her house was tucked away behind a row of pines, with chipped paint and flower pots full of weeds. But it was warm and real. She made me tea and sat across from me like she'd been waiting years to have this conversation. I kept something, she said, pulling out a faded manila envelope. Your mother asked me to destroy it, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Inside was a stack of letters from me. Letters I had written during the years I cared for my parents. Letters to my mom, begging for support. Letters I'd left on her nightstand or tucked into her dresser when she was too tired or too angry to listen. I'm scared, Mom, one read. Another said, I feel like you don't see me anymore. Another, please tell me I'm not just a burden with legs. My hands trembled as I read them. Some were smeared with tears, maybe hers, maybe mine. She never responded. I whispered, no, Aunt Lorna said. But she read them. She told me once that she couldn't handle your pain because it made her feel like a failure. That struck me harder than I expected. A failure. Maybe that was the root of it all. Maybe my mom couldn't bear the guilt of what she was doing, so instead of facing it, she convinced herself I was strong, because to admit I wasn't would mean admitting she broken me, but that didn't excuse what came next. I thanked Lorna and left with the letters clutched to my chest. They were proof that I mattered, even if it was in silence. A week later, I got another call. This time from Candace. "Hey, Naomi," she said, her tone unusually chipper. "So I've got a bit of a situation." I could already tell where this was going. "I know you haven't really been involved, but now that the house sale is finalized, I need to go through all the old stuff in the attic. I don't have time to sort it all, and I thought maybe, since you know where everything is, you could help." I bit back a laugh. She wanted my help with their stuff. The very belongings she inherited because I wasn't in need enough. I don't know what possessed me, but I said yes, not out of kindness, out of curiosity. I needed to go back, just once. Not for closure, closure is a myth, but for answers. When I walked into the house, everything had changed. The wallpaper was stripped. The family photos were gone. New curtains, new furniture, even new light fixtures. Candace had turned our home into a sterile, catalog-perfect house meant to impress buyers. It felt hollow, but the attic was untouched. Boxes upon boxes, stacked high, just coated everything, and the light bulb above flickered like a dying star. I dug through it half-heartedly at first. Old blankets, broken lamps, yearbooks, toys from our childhood. And then I found it. A locked tin box with my father's name etched on the top. It took me almost 20 minutes to break the lock. Inside was a bundle of papers and a black notebook. At first, I thought it was just financial records. But as I flipped through, I realized it was a journal. My father's journal. And the first page stopped my breath cold. "Naomi doesn't know how grateful I am. She never will. I don't know how to say it. I see what this is doing to her, how tired she is. Sometimes I think she's fading right in front of me, but I can't lose her too. I don't say it. I should, but I don't." I sank to the floor. He knew. He saw me. Page after page, he wrote about my sacrifices, about how Candace was always absent, how he wished he could make things right, how Mom convinced him not to burden me with guilt, how he wanted to leave me something special, but didn't want to divide the estate and risk Candace contesting it. "I'll leave instructions for the lawyer," one entry said. "There's a backup account. Naomi deserves it." My hands flew to the bottom of the box. Underneath the false lining was a crumpled envelope with my name on it. Inside was a printout from a small credit union, a savings account, $160 in my name, set up a year before he died. I couldn't breathe. After everything he did try, he just didn't finish the job. I stormed out of the attic, straight to my car. I didn't even tell Candace I was leaving. The next morning, I called Mr. Henderson, our family lawyer. He was surprised, but after some digging, he confirmed it. The account existed. The funds were untouched. My father had opened it in secret. It wasn't part of the estate because it wasn't in the will. It was a direct-to-beneficiary account. It was mine. Every cent. I sat with that information for days. At first, I didn't know how to feel. Vindicated, angry, grateful, all of the above. That money wouldn't give me back my youth. It wouldn't erase the betrayal. But it gave me something I hadn't had in over a decade. Freedom. Candace called again. "Hey, I noticed some things are missing from the attic. Did you take a box or something?" There was a small metal case. I paused. "Yeah," I said. "I did." And inside it was the truth. She was silent. I could practically hear the blood draining from her face. I found Dad's journal. And the bank account. Another pause. "You what?" "You heard me." She fumbled for words, her mask of politeness cracking. That money should be part of the estate. I mean, it was mine. He left it to me. Just like the house and everything else was yours. For the first time, I had the upper hand. And I wasn't going to let it go." She started sputtering about fairness, about how we should split everything equally now that we know, about how it was what Mom and Dad would have wanted. I almost laughed. "Oh, now you care about fairness," I said. "Funny. You didn't seem to mind when you were signing the house papers and posting about your beautiful childhood home on Facebook." Silence. "I'm done being the quiet one. Candace," I said, "you can keep the house. You can keep the furniture. But you don't get to rewrite history." And then I hung up. For the first time in my life, I chose me. I used the money to move to the city. Got a small place with big windows and an even bigger bookshelf. I enrolled in writing classes. Started freelancing. I even published a short story about a woman who gave up everything for love and was left with nothing, until she found a way to reclaim herself. It wasn't revenge. It was rebirth. And slowly, piece by piece, I began to live again. They say healing isn't linear, that grief doesn't follow a straight path from pain to peace. And now, having lived through it, I believe that with every scarred inch of my soul. The truth is, I didn't just lose my parents. I lost the illusion that family would always love me the way I loved them, that sacrifice would be recognized, that love would be enough. But in letting go of those illusions, I found something much more valuable. Myself. In the city, my life began to slowly take shape again. I no longer woke up to oxygen machines or the smell of antiseptic. I woke up to sunlight pouring through the curtains and the comforting hum of possibility. I started keeping a journal just like my father's, only mine didn't document regret. Mine was a roadmap out of the wreckage. Each day, I wrote about what I was learning, how I was feeling, even the little victories. My first published story, my first paycheck as a freelance editor, my first quiet morning, without guilt clinging to my spine. But then came something unexpected. In a mail from Candace. Subject: can we talk? I stared at it for 10 minutes before I opened it. Naomi, I know you don't owe me anything, but I'm asking you to hear me out. Things aren't what they seem. Can we meet just once? I'll come to you. She wanted to delete it, but something held me back. Curiosity, maybe, or closure. So I agreed. Reluctantly, we met at a small cafe near my apartment. She looked polished as ever, in heels and a crisp blazer. But there was something different in her eyes. Tiredness, maybe, or shame. She sat down, her hands visibly shaking. I deserve that call, she said first. You had every right to say what you said, and more. I didn't speak. I wasn't there, Naomi. I know. And the truth is, she looked down. I didn't want to be. I was scared of their decline, of seeing them weak, of watching them die slowly. Her voice cracked. But you weren't scared, she whispered. You stayed, and I hid. For a second, I saw the sister I remembered from childhood, the one who used to braid my hair and sneak cookies into my backpack. Not the woman who'd stolen my parents' legacy with a fake smile. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small velvet pouch. This was supposed to go to you, she said, placing it on the table. I found it in Mom's drawer after the funeral, but I kept it. I didn't know why. Maybe I was still trying to be the favorite. But it's not mine. I opened it. Inside was the locket. My locket. The one I gave Mom on her 50th birthday, with a tiny photo of the three of us, Mom, Dad, and me tucked inside. I held it for a moment, then gently closed the pouch. Why now? I asked. Why are you doing this? She exhaled. Because I'm losing everything. I raised an eyebrow. My marriage is falling apart. The kids barely talk to me. I have the house, the money, the things. But none of it means anything. I thought I won when I got the will, but I didn't win. Naomi, I lost the only person who ever really showed up. It was a lot to hear, and part of me, a big part, wanted to hold on to the anger, to punish her, to make her feel every ounce of abandonment I'd lived with. But another part of me, the part that had slowly grown back from the ashes, just felt tired. I didn't forgive her that day, but I let go of the need to hate her. That was enough. We didn't become close again, not really. But we found a sort of quiet truce. We exchanged texts on holidays, and every now and then, she'd send photos of her kids. She never asked for anything else. And that silence, for once, felt like respect. Months passed. I focused on my writing, built a small community of creatives who lifted each other up instead of tearing each other down. I even started a blog, anonymous, at first sharing pieces of my story. I titled it The Silent Sibling. It struck a chord. Within weeks, I had thousands of readers, people from all walks of life writing to me, saying, this was my story. I thought I was alone. You gave words to something I felt for years. One message in particular stuck with me. It was from a woman named Julia. My brother was the golden child. I gave up everything for my parents too. I thought I was crazy for expecting gratitude. But your words made me feel seen. I cried reading it, because that's what I'd wanted all along, not money. Not praise, just to be seen. Later that year, a small publisher approached me about turning the blog into a memoir. I signed the contract with trembling hands. The title, Invisible No More. The day I held the first printed copy in my hands, I felt something click back into place. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. And not just for them, for me. I visited Aunt Lorna and gave her the first signed copy. She smiled, tears in her eyes. "They'd be proud," she whispered. I wasn't sure about that, but I was proud, and that mattered more. I walked home that day through the old part of town, passing bookstores and cafes, watching people live their ordinary lives. And for the first time in over a decade, I didn't feel bitter or broken. I felt free. Epilogue. 2 years later, the book did well, better than I ever imagined. I was invited to podcast, interviews, panels about caregiving, sibling dynamics, grief, and inheritance injustice. People saw me not as the quiet daughter in the background, but as a voice. Candace attended one of my book events. She sat in the back row, quietly, afterward. She came up and hugged me. "You changed lives," she said, "including mine. We'll never be best friends, but we found something closer to peace than war." That's more than I ever expected. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about my parents. I remember the softness in Dad's voice, the way Mom used to hum when she baked. I let myself feel the love that once was, even if it got lost along the way. But I also remind myself of this. I gave all of myself to them. And now, it's my turn. To write. To live. To matter. Because even the silent sibling has a story worth telling. And this was mine.